So you'll go to slide number 3. Yep, and you can just type them in. We're going to take about a minute or 2 more here.
Okay, so we're gonna, Ty, if you could go ahead and read through it, and then what will happen is if you, as we go along with the presentation, if you find that you want to add some more community agreements, please feel free to do it, or if you need us to assist you with doing it, just drop them in the chat. All right.
So a couple of the agreements that'll be grounding us for tonight is transparency. I love that one. Being authentic with your experience, respecting other people's opinions, even if people don't agree with you, keeping an open mind and sharing the mic. And all of us are dedicated to learning a little bit more about the Georgia PSC and just about public service commissions in general. So those are some really, really good ones to get us started for tonight, and lead and direct our conversations as we go forward. So we're going to go ahead and hop right on in. Thank you all for taking the time to fill out the Jamboard and Finance and Community Agreements. But we wanted to go ahead and start with kind of a grounding question for us. So by show of hands, how many people know what public service commissions are and what they're responsible for? See a couple hands, sweet. Chastity, do you mind explaining to us what the PSC is, or you just raise your hand in acknowledgement, yes or no?
I did. I lowered it. I raised it 2 times. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chastity Malloy, and the PSC is the Public Service Commission. They are a 5-person governing body that serve in 6-year staggered terms. And they facilitate and regulate our energy, our telecommunications, as well as our gas. Most of those are those that are outside of exclusive energy providers like EMCs, but that's what the PSC is. We've got 2 public service commissioners on the ballot, you know, for this year for the midterms elections, Districts 2 and Districts 3. And I think I answered the questions. Hey, Kayla.
Hey, Kayla, it's good to see you. Yes, knocked it out of the park. Thank you so much, Chastity. It's so good to have you here. And that's right on the money. The Public Service Commission, body of 5 people, and they are really in control of like how our utilities are regulated in places that don't have other regulating bodies for utilities. So it's perfect. Yes, there are 2 commissioners on the ballot, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. So we have like a grounding definition of what the PSC is, but how do they define themselves? According to the state's website, the Georgia Public Service Commission ensures that consumers receive safe, reliable, and reasonably priced telecommunications, electric, and natural gas services. The 5 members of the commission are determined by statewide election, and like Chastity said, it's in staggered 6-year terms. So it's important to note that the institution of public service commissions have been around since 1879. So a very, very long time, and Georgia was one of the first states to adopt a public service commission. It was originally created to serve the public interest during the creation of railways. And public service commissions were created to prevent unfair burdens on the public from corporate overreach when creating major public works. So their job was to, of course, defend public interest and make sure that nobody was getting swindled by these, larger conglomerates or really larger entities like Vanderbilt Railways and things like that as different public works were being constructed. So currently PSCs control utilities like energy. And although there are other utility governing bodies, as Chastity mentioned, outside of the PSC, we're not going to be covering those tonight. If you'd like more information, the Sierra Club has a lot of good information. GIPL has a lot of good information. So I would definitely suggest checking those resources out. We'll have more resources at the end of the presentation. So PSCs were places that you were supposed to go and still are supposed to go to have your interests represented when it comes to utilities. And they're appointed or voted for, and every state has a public service commission to stand for public interest. So they have a wide-ranging responsibility, and they are supposed to defend, as their name states, the public. However, we've had a different experience as an organization. The first time Sustainable Georgia Futures ever interacted with the Public Service Commission, it was during a town hall, or what was billed as a town hall for the integrated resource plan that happened in March. If you need more information about that, we have some resources at the end. We won't go too much into it here, but normally when the integrated resource plan comes up for restructuring every 3 years here in Georgia, the process with the public service commissioners is a little bit more iterative and more democratic. So the commissioners are able to hear more from the public, but this time it was pretty much the exact opposite. And Adrian's going to share a little bit about our story with the Public Service Commission.
I'm going to use Ty's computer. Okay, so I keep hearing the background noise. Is it because our earbuds are in? Yeah, that is so much better. Okay, so we like to tell the story that. Hold on just a sec. So we like to tell the story of what our Sustainable Georgia Futures is. It's because how we interacted first with the PSC, and a lot of you on here, you already know, I lost my temper. It was an embarrassing moment for me as a Black woman who is a head of an organization. And the reason why I lost my temper is because of what Todd said. We were expecting a completely different experience. And, PSCs, there's 50 public service commissions throughout the country. So everybody has a PSC. Not all of them are 6 years, 6 years in office. Not all of them are voted. Some you can go and, most are appointed. Some are appointed and voted, like here in Georgia. And it's different experiences, and these entities and these bodies were set up, supposedly it's in its name for the public. But when we went there, we were really happy. The staff, my staff can, they can back me up on this. We had donuts, coffee, bright colored clothes on, wagons, and we were rolling up to the PSC really to just have the experience, because there's been other organizations that have been out there that have been doing the work, and we wanted to take a seat back and really just learn from what was going on in Georgia. But as soon as we rolled up, we were told that, we weren't going to be able to bring our coffee and donuts in to our friends and people who were coming in. They relegated us to a spot. They told us that we had to sign in. If we didn't sign, and if you signed in, you had to speak. So they had us like lined up in rows of tens, and people who are here can attest to this. And you couldn't, unless you were a part of Georgia Power or something, or an entity like that, you were allowed on the inside. But if you were not, if you were of the public, you were on the outside, like in the gallows, waiting to be called on to come in on your forced statement that you had to make for 3 minutes. And people here can attest to, if you were a part of some type of industry or something like that, they allowed you to speak much longer. And then at this point with this experience, you know, Ty and I and the staff, because I'm gonna speak because I want to see what the process is, we tried to put something together. But in the course of that happening, the group that was before us, this woman went up and she was speaking about the air quality and about, you know, just talking to this body of folks about, you know, clean air and things of that nature. And the head of the doggone PSC said to this woman, basically, if you don't like the air here, then you can go to China. So basically told her to go to another country. Let me just say this. I should have walked away then because I was steaming inside when she said that. And as we got into the actual room and we were sitting down, I had on my phone, just like this, I was ready to say what we had written down. But I was just seething because they were having it in the morning where working people couldn't come and, you know, talk about these high power bills. And, you know, it was just everything that they were doing was like just a slap in the face of the public. So when I got up there, I mentioned that it was disrespect. That's right, sister. It was disrespect. And so when I got up there, that's exactly what I said to them. I told Pridemore, see, listen, what's her name? Got me calling this woman Petty Pridemore. I told Pridemore and the rest of that group that you guys are here for us. You guys are, and we didn't ask you to be in these positions. And I just went off. I cursed y'all. I felt so bad. You know, I told them that and then as I was leaving, because nothing that I said was wrong. It was just, I was upset because I got upset. And as I was leaving, I evidently had put my jacket on the wrong way. And it is a yellow, beautiful rain jacket. And this woman who is sitting on the PSC had the audacity to say to me, not about anything that I had said, Miss Rice, you know you have your coat on backwards. I turned around and I cussed her out, right? You know, I said, well, thank you very much with your petty ass self. And so now, you know, I am known for saying that, which I was so totally embarrassed. But this is the type of conditions that they had that would bring a person to this. Now, let me tell you something about myself. I'm an organizer. I've organized for over 20 years across the state and different countries. And I know that when you get pissed off and you get mad and you begin to start cursing, it's because you feel as though that you have no recourse. You feel as though you can't do anything. But I know because I have been alongside people winning. And I know that we can win. If not today, we can eventually win, but we have to be smart about it. We have to be strategic about it, and we have tools to do it. So that's when I began to think like, okay, we need to begin to build power because don't nobody know what this doggone PSC is, and that PSC is, and that is the reason why these folks sit up here and act the fool the way that they act. So we have to begin to build power. We have to begin to strategically think about them. And this is why this came up today. This is the reason why we're doing the power mapping session today. And it is just the beginning. We just want to introduce it. It's a tool that we use in organizing. You all have probably used it. Businesses use it in order to see how we can strategically begin to, if they're not interested in the public, if their self-interest is not tied to what the public is, and it's more to these industries, then we got to see what's in their self-interest that we can move, the things that can make them move. So with that, I wanted to share our story. we do a story workshop. I also wanted to let y'all know that we're not doing the whole entire power mapping workshop and training. We're only doing a portion of it. So there's going to be some things that are left out. So if you've ever been through a training like this, just take that in mind. We're doing that for the sake of time. And I don't know how much time I can take this heat. I don't see if y'all know, y'all see the sweat rolling off of us, but we hot over here. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it on to Ty. And I see some stuff in the chat. I don't know if we want to say anything. I think you're right. Very beautiful, Jack. Thank you, Gayla. You have to be secure in your seat if you think you can get away with treating people like that. Ma'am, thank you. She's too comfortable. She is. And we gotta change that, and we can change that. All right, I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna give it over to.
I'm so glad you mentioned something about how we get her out of there. Let's talk about it. So we're going to talk about who the commissioners even are. So there are 5, and many of them have been on the Public Service Commission for at least 4 or 5 years. Let me see. So Jason Shaw from District 1, his term, all the districts run up and throughout Georgia. And I think Fitz's seat is up this year. So if we can figure out what each of these commissioners' self-interests are and make impact in those areas where they have vested interests, then we're better able to move them from their seats, or at least move their positions on certain issues. So these are the current commissioners, but the election in November of this year on the 8th is coming up for District 2, which is Tim Eccles' seat, and for District 3, which is Fitz Johnson's seat. And all of these commissioners have been elected at least once, except for Fitz Johnson. He was appointed after the previous commissioner vacated his seat. And now he's up for re-election. So now that no one really knows in the general public what the Public Service Commission is, but when they see an incumbent on the ballot, since Fitz Johnson is already in this seat, once November comes around, he's going to be running as an incumbent. People see the name and they see the incumbent right beside it, and they believe that he already knows what he's doing, right? So there's no need to question. But he hasn't been in this position for an entire year. So who's to guarantee what he's able to do? They're more likely to re-elect someone despite not knowing anything about them. And now that we have a bit more information about the Public Service Commissioners, we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of why we're here tonight, which is analyzing the power these commissioners hold. So Adrian is going to take it over from here for the power mapping and power analysis piece. And y'all, we're in for a treat. Our tech set up, just 1 minute.
My mic is on and my mic is off. Okay, wonderful. Okay, and we are here. Oh, you already here. So the way that I like to do with power, we just talked about power. So y'all just thought y'all was going to get on here and do a power mapping thing, but no, you're not just going to get on here and do a power mapping thing. We're going to talk about power, because I think it's just fruitless to do an exercise like this if we don't talk about what we're trying to impact. And it is the power of these people, just like what Sis Maria said. You know, these folks are too comfortable in their situation. But in order for us to change it, we're going to have to really change some of the power structures. So what I'm looking at right now is a Frederick Douglass quote. You all have probably seen this Frederick Douglass quote, but I want to talk about this because I need Frederick Douglass, channel Frederick Douglass right now in order to ground us into the next part of the exercise that we're about to do. So as you see, Frederick Douglass says, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. The struggle may be a moral one. It may be a physical one. It may be both a moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power conceives nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. And that's what we're talking about today. Power conceives nothing without a demand. So next slide, please. So we're going to ask you this question. And I think, Milka, are you the timekeeper? Oh, Ty has 45 seconds up there already. All right, awesome. So this is the question. Y'all see it up here. How did your upbringing and or experience around race, class, gender, sexual orientation affect how you think about power today? What associations did those experiences create? And I want you to brainstorm a list of words you associate with power. Because I know that when I think about power as a Black woman, there are many words and things that come to my mind when I think about power. And I have to tell you, being in my 40s right now, and when I was in my 20s, I had different feelings about the word power. And so if you could just think about that, think about your race, think about your class, think about your gender, think about your orientation, and think about power, and then write those words down. And then what we want you to do, we're gonna give you 45 seconds. We want you to drop those words into the chat. Or if you wanna come off of mute and talk to us a couple of moments about how you associate with power, please raise your hand afterwards. Yeah, he is. Bubba is. And he was appointed.
End of part. Does anybody need a little more time? I like that people are putting institutions. That's
let me see. I mean, it's something here. Really,
I see some really good things here. We want to keep this list. Please keep this list. It's like anybody that has put something down, would you like to share? Please say your name if you raise your hand and you would like to. No one would like to? Remember our community agreements, and this is a safe space. Okay, well, keep those because you'll still have a chance to. I gotta tell you, I was looking because we did this exercise, and what I wrote down when I did this exercise a while back was fear, was danger, was power hungry people, money hungry people. Those are the things that came to my mind when I thought about power. I want y'all to hold on to that. Now let's go to the next slide. So this is a power spectrum. Now, if we were in the room together, we would have this, and we would ask you to come, and we would ask you to stand by by the words. So you put together a list of words. So where do you, as a person, and your feelings and your thoughts, that list of words, where are you on this map? Where are you on the spectrum? Are you 400? Are you past 400? Do you have negative associations with power? Are you more on the positive association side of power? Would you say that you're neutral when it comes to power? Put that in the chat, please. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to do that. Neutral. I see a lot of neutrals. Leaning towards negative. Okay. I'm on the positive spectrum. Ooh, I can't wait. Okay. Okay. I can't see where my chat is. It's right here. Depends on it. I'm neutral. Towards positive. Depends on the context. I like that. Depends on the circumstances, sometimes positive, negative specifically. All right. Okay. Neil, I saw that you said you were one of the first ones to respond. You said that you are neutral, leaning towards negative, did you say? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like power in a sense is like to me, I feel like it can be inherently neutral, like it doesn't, it in and of itself isn't like, you know, it doesn't have morality in and of itself. It doesn't have even like a true like purpose in like one direction or another. It's just like it can be used for anything. It could be used for good, it could be used for evil, it could, you know, for greed or for generosity. so that in the most general sense, I feel like, you know, power as a thing can be done with it. And then the reason I said it, I kind of lean negative, is often power is something that is concentrated, and when that's concentrated, that's like, you know, limited numbers of people having the ability to access that power and then utilize it for, you know, their needs. So, and typically that concentrated power I see as a very negative thing, but power is something in and of itself that can allow for greater power to be built and to be concentrated. And that's why I had kind of both of those responses.
That's a very good. I agree with a lot with what you said. Tish, you said I'm on the positive spectrum. Do you agree with anything that Neil said, or can you share with us why you're on the positive spectrum? Why you would be leaning closely to positive?
Yep, I'm going to use that power that I have to educate and motivate other leaders to show and use that power in a way that's going to be effective to make it a positive adventure. I don't use the word power in a way that it has a negative connotation, because once you have the power, you're a decision maker. You're going to be the one that guides the way that you want a person to go, or you want any kind of situation to go. So I would want to have the power to make the decisions. That's why I selected to say it's on a positive note for me.
Awesome. You know, that is so interesting. I've done this workshop a lot of times, probably like 30 or 40 times. And let me tell you how this power spectrum normally goes. Normally over in the negative association, you have Black women. Black women are huddled and they have a negative association with power. And in the middle, you have somewhat, you know, you have a mixture of Black women, Black, you know, Black men, white, you know, different, you know, groups. And then on the right side, you normally always have white men or, you know, white women, and they're to that side. Now, it's not to say, because it's based upon your experience as a person and how you have interacted with power. I mean, nobody is wrong with what their association with power is. But it is so interesting because I remember when I, as a Black woman, was on that 400 spectrum and beyond. I was like beyond 400 because I felt like power was something that was used against my community and against me as a person of color. But when I began to organize and I saw that you could bring power together, empower people, I began to look at power in a different type of way. So similar to what you said, Tish, and similar to what Sister Maria, I think Maria and Brother David Mohammed put down, I think I lean more towards positivity. It's about power I recognize. And the power that I recognize is the power of the people. And so it's just so interesting. Now, let me tell you something. Every single day, I'm not gonna lie, I struggle with seeing power as positive. I was not taught that power was positive, you wanting power over something. When you think of villains, super villains, they want power. You know, and when you think of anything that's like that, it has to do with that. But what I want to say to you all is that exactly what Neil said, exactly what Tish said, you know, it's neutral. And it's so funny that we're on with so many people that I know that you all are in civic and organized stuff that nobody on here put anything negative. So that's quite telling to say. So with the group that I see that's here, what we're going to be doing with this power mapping and when we're thinking about sources of power, right? I'm not going to go through this, but I just want y'all to see it. When we're doing the power mapping exercise, what we want you to be thinking about is positional power. And we're thinking Joe Biden, Patricia Pridemore, Mayor Dickens, Andre Dickens. We're thinking of that type of power, positional power, organized money, financial services, energy companies, real estate development, lobbying. You know, I'm thinking of ALEC, you know, that's organized money. And then organized people, congregations, advocacy groups, unions, families, and civic associations. So when we do the bigger workshop on this, it's the sources of power. And when we do power mapping, that's what we're really thinking about looking into. Anybody has any questions about this or any reflections or anything that anybody would like to say? Okay, I'm looking through. I don't see any hands.
I love the definition of the private organized money. That business constituencies that weigh in on public policy issues. That right there is a whole sentence, literally, and it says so much.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Thank you. Yes, indeed. I like it too. Ellen, and then Neil after Ellen.
Ellen, you're on mute.
Makiba, you might have to.
I asked her to unmute.
Okay.
where does education fit in? Like higher education, public schools?
Mm, I mean, it all depends. If we're talking about, labor and the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association, a lot will argue that that's organized power. And with their COPE funds, which is their political action funds, you could even say that that's organized money. But then you have charter associations as well. So those are whole different entities and whole different things. So, I mean, it could all depends on what organizations or entities are associated with education. I would say would make the sense of where you would put it in the sources of power. So hopefully that answered it.
Or-
Okay. So Neil is next, and is it anybody else after that time? Because I can't see everyone.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel I've seen this a lot, and I remember a lot of times from some, especially like earlier times of organizing. I remember people saying, those, in the current, power structure, those are the people who have like organized money and they have lots of resources, and because of that, they, we can't really fight them on that level, so that we have the people, and because of that, we have the organized people, or we have the people on our side, that like that's our counterbalance to the organized money. But I've found that over my time and experience, I was like, well, you don't just have people. Yeah, you actually have to organize them together. Like they're not necessarily like on your side. And unfortunately, to actually get them organized, you do need resources. And most of those resources are essentially backed by money. So I've found that, like, hearing that in the past has gotten me to kind of be like, maybe this is, we can't just take that for granted. We don't necessarily have that just inherently. Like we have to work towards it, and sometimes that requires organizing that money too.
So right, indeed. All right, next slide. Okay, another thing that we look at, so we're going to be looking at each one of the PSC, okay, commissioners. We're going to be looking at each one of the commissioners. And we like to use a self-interest stick. We like to look at, this could help you. You don't have to use this. We tell people to use this. When we do the exercise, you're going to have 20 minutes to do a quick search. And like we said, this is just so you can get a taste of what power mapping is, but what to help you move along a little quickly. Like if you would think about the commissioners as this, their head, issues you think about, issues they think about, right? So what are the issues that you think that they think about? And you don't have to just think about the issues that they think about. We have access to a lot of things that help us figure out what people care about, what their heart is, what their gut is, what their hands is. And so when we say what their head is, it's the issues they're thinking about, their heart, the people in the places that they care about, their gut, personal injustices that they feel may have happened to them personally or affected them. Like people who are NRA, a lot of times they say that I'm a part of the National Rifle Association because I want to feel safe and I don't want someone to cause an injustice on me. So that is a part of what they say is their gut. So their hands, a lot of times skills and experience, what people do, they're connected to a lot of entities that have helped them get where they need to be. So when you're looking at a person that you're power mapping, or an entity or an institution, you always need to think about what is their self-interest. Now, when we get down to the bottom line with these commissioners, would anybody show of hands say that the commissioners that are for the Georgia Public Service Commission, do you think that they care about, is their self-interest lying primarily in us, the people? If you feel so, please make your case right now. We'll listen. Any hands? Chastity look like I was scratching my head.
Look, nope.
So we know that for certain, but what we don't know is we're speculating. So we may not be able, so we are not something that is in their self-interest. So us and what Neil said is not something that is going to move them. Maybe money is going to move them. Maybe people who are connected to certain type of money is going to move them. You know, maybe those are the things. But in order for us to do that, we got to think about the long game. And so in order for us to think about the long game, we have to know what are these folks' self-interests. So this is what this is. So we'll keep this up here. We are going to go to breakout rooms, but we do want you just to keep that in mind. So how many people here have Power Map before? Show of hands. Chastity, Neil, Tish has done it. Sister Maria. Okay. So in what context have you all done power mapping? Like, why were you doing it? You can put it in a chat, or you can take yourself off mute. Policy work, okay. What else? Boards and commissioners, okay. Cramming for an exam. Oh, I love this. Determining who we target for a campaign. I love that. Yes, indeed, Neil. Okay. First of all, that is the best use right there. Tish, you and I, we're gonna be friends. Awesome. Okay. So power mapping is meant to do exactly all of those things, and something that I didn't even think about. So it's a tool, it's an organizing tool, it's a strategic tool. It's to help consider the social and political context within a strategy. So it's so we can see who our allies, who these people's allies, opponents are, their targets, their constituents. Is to serve as a reminder and a framework for strategy. Because sometimes what I do, one of the things that I did before I was in this position as, you know, the ED of this organization, I used to I used to go in and help organizations think about campaign strategy. And sometimes it was just as easy as us doing a power mapping thing so that we can strategize around what we need to do, what our next steps, who our opponents are, and everything like this. So I use this as a tool to help people to help organizations get unstuck in their strategy. So you can use it as that. So with this, we're using it right now to take a glance, and you probably have already done this in your organizations, you know, of these commissioners and who they are. So if you can, while I think we're having a little bit technical difficulties, I want you all to pull up that jam board that you all have.
Sorry about that, y'all. So just Nikiva, would you mind dropping the Jamboard link in one more time for everybody?
Can I screen share? Can I share? Okay, let me do it. All right, got it. Move this over. How do I make it present? I got it. Hi, so how to do it? I'm not that bad. All right. Let me go back. All right. I will be so happy when we are able to meet in person. Then this will not be happening so much. Okay, we practice this, y'all, and still you can't, sometimes you just, hey, it happens. All right, so we're gonna put everybody in 5 groups. We're gonna hop into the breakout rooms to discuss each commissioner. Once you're in the room, this is what we're gonna give you some tips. Take 5 to 7 minutes to research your given commissioner with your team. Look for points of self-interest, the civic, the public, the private, the groups that they're associated with. Make sticky notes as we were doing, like with the community agreements associated with to find your place and take them to your Jamboard power mapping. Identify the organizations or the individuals with the most power to achieve the most desired outcome. Place the sticky notes on the power map and leave some distance between the notes. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the power. Let's take a look at it. Canva, I tell you. Let me stop sharing. This is the Jamboard. That's not the Jamboard, that's the tip. What's the Jamboard at? All right, we got it. So let me share my screen again. And there we go. Is yours not working at all, Ty? And there and share. Okay, can people see my screen? Thumbs up? All right. Okay, so what we have is this. You're on the Jamboard. Can you go to the next one? Go to the next one. Go to the Pride more. I'm not, it won't let me do it. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Okay, so we have Pride more that's up here, but I remember you did the canvas. So you see that we have most influential, we have, so if you look at the, I don't know what this thing is doing. If you look at don't do it right now because I'm trying to. So if you look at what's most influential or powerful or least influential or powerful, strongly oppose your position, you all have done it. We're going to put you in groups. And so you should be in groups with people who have done power mapping before. And so let's do it. As we're running. Thank you. Makiba, can you start putting people in groups? All right. And this is the Jamboard. So Jamboard 1 is going to be slide 4, Trisha Pridemore. Slide 5 is Tim Eccles. Slide 6 is Jason Shaw. Slide 7 is Fitz Johnson. And slide 8 is Lauren Bubba. Kim, if you don't mind putting people into their things.
Hi, Ruth. The guy got Tim Shaw pulled up on my side. I think you might be muted. Hi, Ruth. I think you might be muted.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Ty. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Ruth, can you hear us?
Ah, oh. It came in briefly.
So we have Jason Shaw, I think. And was a link to, yeah, for the tips and resources, and we can just look at stuff.
So those are all those helpful links for Jason Shaw. And go ahead, open them up so we can see what he's got going on.
All right, I'm temporarily unmuted. I haven't figured out why I'm having issues with the microphone, but I'll hold the space bar. And as I said, I don't know anything about the commissioners. I don't know how to use the JAM board, and I don't live in Georgia, so I don't know how helpful I'll be, and I've never done this power exercise before, but it's interesting for me to hear, so I'm happy to listen. And if I can contribute, I will.
Can run through really quick kind of what we're looking at. So what we're looking for is what we're looking for mostly is like just points of power and interest that Jason would be involved with. So like where he went to school, what boards of directors that he's on, or any kind of like any position where he would have some type of power, what type of churches he goes, or what church he goes to, places that he may work with, as well as the commissioner. And then as we get them, we can plot them on the power map.
We can see that he's been the commissioner 3 years, 3 months, Georgia Olive Farms, olive trees and olive oil, Shaw Insurance Services, Georgia General Assembly, Morrison Shaw Insurance Agency. So it doesn't seem that he has way too much in particular to do with alternative energy and green energy at first glance from his LinkedIn. So I would just go ahead and put a brief sticky note that maybe says something along the lines of a neutral sort of neutral stance. Okay. Give my reasons why. Serving on solar company boards. We know that Bubba is, for instance, boards, climate action boards.
in places like Ballotpedia can give like a really helpful idea of
Ooh, this,
what their interests are.
yeah, let's see his industry and labor. He was a part of the Industry and Labor Committee.
Give me 1 second.
I would go ahead and say, so we go back to his Ballotpedia. See where else he served. He is a business owner. Um, what Facebook says.
Men and women who wear the badge in Georgia. So I guess police and policing he supports. Um,
Hmm. He has posted something about the grid. Let's see. This one's tricky with business owner because I almost want to put it before the Republican Party because I have a feeling that him being a business owner gave him at least a community and an audience that would have supported his Republican Party run and eventually his establishment onto the Public Service Commission. But I also could be wrong about that, and that has nothing to do with his run and nothing to do with his win.
Did we see what type of business he owned?
Let me go back to his LinkedIn. It didn't specify on his Ballotpedia. Principal, I'm Morris and Shaw Insurance Agency, state owner, Shaw Insurance Services.
Okay.
and if it's neutral, then it can be like on the line.
So,
I'm looking at his Instagram and Twitter.
And I would say that his serving on the Industry and Labor Committee probably pushes him a little closer to supporting our position in the sense that we are thinking about green jobs. But of course, that's not always certain because of his relatively neutral stance on alternative energy. He's not like Bubba, who has a lot of, in terms of business ownership, a lot of interest in pushing into the solar community. So I would personally put Industry and Labor Committee as somewhere where he's pretty influential and powerful, not as influential and powerful as being in the Republican Party or being associated with Governor Brian Kemp, but a little towards the side of strongly supporting our position because he was on the Industry and Labor Committee. So he may be interested in green jobs just ancillarily, and him being a business owner. If he were somebody like Trisha Pridemore, who does actually receive funding from, I don't want to say Gas South, but I know that she does do some work with oil companies. So I would probably put her closer to strongly opposing our position. But yeah, that's kind of my reasoning into how I'm posting the stickies. Let's see if there's anything else he's got going on. This could be interesting. And there's some rural interest in green development, but
Yeah, I saw something with broadband that he was supporting rural broadband.
this right up here. This right here. See, maybe you'll say something.
Closing the rooms, Neil.
Y'all pulled us right on out too.
We pulled you right on out. Yes, indeed. Okay, we're pulling people out right now. Okay. So then I also want it to be present. So this is before Ty and my computer crashed. This was the power mapping exercise we wanted to show you. This is Patricia Pridemore. And we had already did some stuff on her. We used Ballotpedia, we used her church, we used her Instagram, we used her Twitter. And so we gave y'all some tips on how to do this. So you guys have access to the Jamboard. And if you want to look into this more, we're going to be doing this more and more. And as we have our retreats, hey, Ty, I can hear you. If you can put that on mute, thank you. As we have our retreats and we have our strategy sessions, we're going to be looking at this power mapping piece. And we're going to be seeing strategically where we want to go, what we want to target, if we want to do events, because Patricia Pridemore's election is coming up in a couple of years. I think, Neil, is 2024, right? Is it Pridemore? And it's Fitz is coming back up again, right? 2024. Yes.
Yeah, she was elected last in 2018. So if it's a 6-year position, it could be a little further out. Or no, that would be 24. Yeah.
So it'll be 2024. So in 2 years, less than 2 years, these elections are coming up of all of these folks. And so what we're going to do with this Jamboard is we're going to start to look in and we're going to bake in what is their self-interest in some of our strategy. And it's not just going to be to pick at, but we're going to see what are where can we align with some of these, and some of these that we don't need to go after, we're just going to leave those alone. If it's like, we know we're not going to get anywhere with the National Rifle Association, we're not going to mess with the National Rifle Association. But I mean, there may be some through lines with Kennesaw State University, or there may be something with something else. So this is how we're looking at power mapping and these power mapping exercises. All of these folks are coming up, and I just think that we have to begin to look at their influences and their self-interest outside of the PSC. So Next slide, please. With that being said, anybody have any questions about this? I know that this last part was a little bit confusing because our computers went down. We're going to be doing more of these, and it's going to be more, fluid. So if anybody got any questions or anything like that, or if anybody would like to share any of their findings with their power map, we would love to go over it. I see that Jason Shaw, y'all got quite a bit someplace with him. So if you all want to share some things that you found out about him, that would be great.
Awesome. So yeah, we definitely got some things going for Jason. I can go ahead and share my, well, actually I won't share my screen, but if you hop onto the Jamboard to slide 6, you can see what we posted for Jason Shaw. And we took a quick minute just going through his socials, his Ballotpedia. Ty mentioned that was really helpful, just to figure out where he would be influential and where he would support our positions. Naturally, we found that he was most influential in the Republican Party. He got a lot of endorsements from Governor Kemp in order to even serve on the Public Service Commission. So we decided that was a pretty high point. But we do feel that his other engagements made him a little less influential. So we wouldn't necessarily go towards the Georgia olive farms. And we kind of feel that to some degree, he may not support SGF's particular position as a climate justice and education organization, because he doesn't have any direct through lines with alternative energy firms. I know if Ruth wants to pop in and add anything, that would be lovely, or Ty. But yeah, that's kind of what we spackled in.
Okay. And then, who knows, we might dig a little bit more and we'll be able to find something. And it's not always necessary about whether or not he aligns with us, but it's all about strategy. Is it any way that we can go through something that influenced him and then move him on that? So that's what we're ultimately looking for, because no, if we were to go to him, he probably wouldn't want to align or try to promote anything that we're trying to do. So yeah. Okay, anybody have any questions about this exercise? Do y'all think that this exercise could be helpful? Meh, no, thoughts?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it gave us all an opportunity. This is Chastity, by the way, to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the commissioners, and some of the findings were not surprising. And if we have the time, if I could share, we had District 3, so that was Fitz Johnson, and he's unique amongst the 5 in that he was appointed in 2019, and taking a little bit of a deeper dive, he has no policy and no platform when it comes to energy, energy advancement, energy justice, or anything related to energy. I think one of his pros is definitely that he's civically engaged, but it has a lot to do with public service, but not what the Public Service Commission regulates. He has got a law background. We ranked amongst influential, powerful. He is the first Black Republican commissioner. And, some people like to see representation, even though they don't know that it's an appointment versus representation that was voted in. So those are some of the things that we highlighted on slide 7 of the Jamboard.
Wow, y'all were doing it. Okay, does anybody else want to share anything? All right. Yeah, we're up here. We got a meeting, Melanie. Oh, we're almost done. Okay, yeah, we're on. No, you're fine. Okay. So, yeah. So if anybody else wants to share anything, this has been a night. We are going to be doing more and more of these. The next time we're going to be trying to do it more so in person, and we will definitely invite y'all to it so we can do an even deeper dive as we find and do more things. And so if anybody, Ty, is there anything that you would like to, as we close folks out and give them back their night? Neil had to raise his hand. Go, Neil.
Oh yeah, I was in the group talking about Tim Eccles, and we were discussing the kind of really shady stuff he's been doing around trying to get his district redrawn in order to
Mm.
not have to, basically in order to draw his opponent out of his district, and then also just be able to get, his little buddy like ability to move to the island, Tybee Island. So just kind of talked a little bit about that corruption that he's, dealt with, or that he's been engaged in, and how that there are several organizations, solar companies, and even some other people in our networks who've been supporting him for a long time. Like I even saw there was a fundraiser that he was supposed to have yesterday with names that we would know, or some of us might know, in the clean energy network. And it's like kind of call the question, like, how, we can't support a guy like this who's doing shady stuff. So we're kind of thinking out like what would that look like, and him kind of trying to say he's a champion of clean energy, needing to call out like really what he's done. So yeah.
Well, that's some good points. Did y'all put the sticky notes on Tim Eccles, Neil?
We need to go. I can go and put a few in there. So I don't
Please do. Please put those sticky notes so that we can know it. I mean, Tim Eccles and Patricia Pridemore are doing some really shady stuff with Peggy Durant, right? I mean, all of that was just the redistricting with that, and them getting together to cut that lady out. I know there's more people who are on this call that are way more well versed than I am in that subject, but these are just some really shady characters. Carrie from SACE.
Yeah, I just have a question. I just wondered if anybody has any insight on the election, the primary election for Fitz Johnson's district, or any insights about the primary elections. If anybody knows about the candidate, I think it's Sheila who won that primary election, or anything like that.
Okay, her name is Shayla. But I was told, nobody knows her. I don't know.
No one knows her. Nobody knows who she is. This is so fishy. You know what this reminds me of, y'all? Remember Cynthia McKinney's election, the election that they used to get Cynthia McKinney out? And remember that woman, Denise Joy, they used to run against her, and she won under, this just, it feels like that, y'all. It really does, because don't nobody know who this lady is. We need to do a deep dive on her. We should have had a power mapping thing on her.
So even if people in the environment that we're in, they were sending emails like, hey, can we help you? Do you need this? You need that? No response.
Wow. It's yeah.
Does if she have a website for her campaign?
Nothing. Do anybody know if she has a website?
I think there is a website. I'd have to look at it, but
Ty's looking it up right now. Sheila Edwards.
What that said to me, like what the election said to me, and is that just, I think that people in this state do not know about the Public Service Commission or understand. Like, I think maybe, I think people just like pick a name when they see it. And I'd love to see some real, like groups come together to just do education around the whole state about what it is and why you should care next time it's up on your ballot. Because I have people who, I've had people text me, I don't know, like, they're like, I've got my ballot. What is this thing? Do you know? Like,
what Zion just said it. Zion said, never heard of the PSC until today. So, right. I mean, it's so true. And we go knock on doors, Carrie. We knock on doors and we ask people, one of our survey question is, do you know who your public service commissioner is? Or do you know what it is? And everybody says, what? Who? What? Public? What? So nobody knows what this is. And that's the reason why these folks are, and these folks know this. That's why they're able to do this crazy stuff that they're doing. And it's so impactful over everything, over our, utilities and everything. Ty raised their hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's one of those, it kind of gets back to what we were saying earlier with Fitz Johnson in District 3, like he, in November, he has the privilege of running as an incumbent, but he doesn't have any previous experience in clean energy. He's an Army vet, he went to law school, but other than that, like there's not really any, to run for a different public office, maybe sure, but for a utilities commissioner, things are looking a little bit sketchy. Same with Tim Eccles. His background is in mass communication, English. Like it's not in anything to do with any kind of clean energy. And not to say that what you studied in school has to directly correlate to what you do as a profession, but when that profession is determining the utility costs and the lived experience of hundreds of thousands to millions of Georgians, then we have an issue. So we really appreciate you guys like chiming in and, talking with us and discussing more about the Public Service Commission, because the more awareness that we have about these commissioners, especially as these election dates come up, the more we can move the needle and disrupt that comfortability that we talked about at the very, very beginning. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close the evening on out. Makiba, if you don't mind switching to the next slide for us. And we're going to leave y'all with some next steps, potentially. So as far as the Public Service Commission is concerned, you can continue to follow the Public Service Commission through their integrated resource plan process. That is still ongoing. You are able to make public comments on that process, and we have some resources coming up in 1 second about how you can learn about that process and get involved in that process in the ways that you're able to. It is kind of tied into some legalese though, so I would just caution that. Also, when November elections come around, if you're a Georgia resident, if you're registered to vote here, please do your research, vote. And we can get some of these folks out of here who are doing some really shady stuff. As far as we are concerned for Sustainable Georgia Futures, if you want to dig deeper into power analysis, we have a full-blown in-depth training on power analysis and power mapping. Normally we do those in person, so you can definitely reach out to us for information on that. And we'll have another climate justice education meeting. Roughly, it's tentatively scheduled for July 21st at 6 p.m. So we always do the third Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. More details on that will be forthcoming, and you can follow our social media for upcoming events. We're at Sustainable Georgia Futures on all platforms. And then, Makiba, if you don't mind going to the last slide for us. We have some resources that may be helpful to you. You can leave me a note in the chat, or just put a note in the chat that you want the resources and leave me your email. You can direct message me in the chat if you want, and I can send you these resources. But we have some more resources for you to learn more about the Public Service Commission, at least here in Georgia. And for public service commissions in the surrounding states, I know for sure have websites. One thing I will give the Public Service Commission here is that there's more information on Georgia's PSC website than many of the surrounding states. So that's a solid-ish resource. Ballotpedia gives you all the tea. So if you're nosy like I am, please go to Ballotpedia, look up everybody. You can connect to people's social media pages and everything and see everything about what they're about. If you want to leave a public comment for the Public Service Commission, we have that link as well. Public comments go to their table for consideration throughout the Integrated Resource Plan process. So if you want to know what the IRP even is and what weird acronym we've been using all night, we have a couple of information pieces on that too. Sierra Club is really, really helpful in breaking that down.
Neil is on here, so if Neil wants to drop anything, Neil has helped us out tremendously. So, oh, thank you, Chastity. Thank you. Yes, yes, indeed. And we're gonna do more and more. We're partnering with a lot of different groups, and all of this stuff, Ty can drop it in the chat. We thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. We can't wait to see some of y'all in person for house meetings and other CJEMs. And Ty's gonna drop their information in the link. And if you need anything, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. You guys stay cool out there. It's really, really hot. Stay safe. Take care of yourself.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye, Ruth. Bye.
Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.